Welcome to Zoe Stories. Her feminization masterpiece. Alex had always lived a life split in two. By day, he was the dependable office assistant, organizing schedules, managing files, and making sure the world around him ran smoothly. By night, he explored a secret side of himself, a side filled with silky fabrics, shimmering makeup, and the thrill of becoming someone entirely different. It wasn't something he had chosen lightly, it was a part of him, a form of expression he could never ignore. But it was also a secret, one that carried both the exhilaration of freedom and the fear of discovery. Alex's apartment was a small, cozy space, filled with the familiar comforts of daily life. Yet, hidden in the corner of his bedroom was a treasure trove of fantasies. Dresses neatly hung in a private wardrobe, makeup kits arranged with precision, high heels lined like soldiers ready for duty. Each item was a key to a persona that the world never saw. The apartment was more than just a home. It was a sanctuary, a stage, a secret world where Alex could fully inhabit the woman he sometimes became. It was a Tuesday evening when the story truly began. The city outside his window was alive with lights, traffic humming like a distant heartbeat. Alex sat on the edge of his bed, fingering the fabric of a deep emerald dress he had planned to wear. Tonight was different. Mia, his girlfriend, had insisted he try something bold, something transformative. Mia was a woman of striking confidence, bold ideas, and a playful, teasing nature. She understood Alex's secret in ways most could not, yet she also had a fascination with control, a desire to push boundaries. That combination was both thrilling and terrifying. "Are you sure about this?" Alex asked, voice barely above a whisper. The question wasn't just about the dress. It was about stepping fully into a persona, about showing himself in a way that was vulnerable, intimate, and exposed. Mia's smile was reassuring but carried a glint of mischief. "Absolutely," she said, running her fingers through his hair. "Tonight, you're not just dressing up. You're my masterpiece." The words sent a shiver down Alex's spine. Masterpiece. The idea that Mia could shape him, transform him, and reveal a side of himself he sometimes kept hidden, was intoxicating and frightening all at once. Alex rose slowly, moving to the small vanity mirror he had set up. His reflection stared back, a combination of curiosity and apprehension. The transformation wasn't just about clothes. It was about shedding layers of Alex's daily persona and embracing something entirely new. Carefully, he selected the dress Mia had picked, letting the soft fabric slide over his shoulders, hugging him in ways that were both thrilling and unfamiliar. He moved methodically, knowing every motion mattered, every angle of reflection was a test. Next came makeup, a delicate ritual of brushes, powders, and colors. Each stroke changed more than his appearance. It altered how he felt, how he held himself, and how he imagined the world might see him. Foundation smoothed over imperfections, blush warmed his cheeks, eyeliner accentuated his eyes, and a deep, seductive lipstick completed the transformation. The mirror reflected a face that was at once familiar and entirely new. High heels waited patiently on the floor, their slender elegance a challenge Alex welcomed and feared in equal measure. He stepped into them carefully, balancing with measured grace. The sensation of height, the sway of hips, the pressure on arches, everything contributed to a feeling of heightened awareness. Each step was deliberate, a dance of confidence and caution. Mia's eyes sparkled as she watched from across the room. "Perfect," she whispered, a soft laugh escaping her lips. "You look amazing." The compliment was simple, yet it carried weight. It wasn't just about appearance. It was about trust, intimacy, and the thrill of sharing a secret world. Alex felt a rush of emotion, a mixture of vulnerability, excitement, and the undeniable thrill of being seen in a way only Mia could allow. Yet, even in this private space, the tension lingered. Every knock at the door, every shadow, every distant sound could trigger panic. The duality of Alex's life, office worker by day, hidden persona by night, was never far from his mind. Tonight, however, the stakes felt higher. Mia's plan was meticulous, precise, and designed to push boundaries. He wasn't just dressing up, he was stepping into a challenge, an experience that would test his limits and perhaps reveal more than he had expected. As the evening deepened, the apartment seemed to shrink around Alex. Every detail, the shimmer of the dress, the delicate curls of the wig, the precise makeup, felt magnified. The air hummed with anticipation, every movement a silent prelude to the events that would unfold. Alex took a deep breath, letting the moment settle in. This wasn't just about appearance. It was about transformation, exploration, and trust. And as Mia stepped closer, brushing a stray curl from his face, she whispered softly, "Tonight, you're not just me or you. You're my creation, my masterpiece. Let's see who you can become." The words hung in the air, charged with possibility, and Alex felt the first true thrill of the night. He wasn't just stepping into a dress. He was stepping into a world of suspense, vulnerability, and thrilling transformation. And little did he know, the night had only just begun. The soft hum of the city outside barely reached Alex's ears as he stood in front of the full-length mirror. Every fiber of his being was acutely aware of the transformation he was about to undertake. This wasn't simply dressing up, it was a ritual, a journey into a persona that balanced on the knife's edge between exhilaration and fear. The emerald dress draped elegantly over his arm, its silky texture inviting yet intimidating. He could feel his heartbeat quicken, a nervous drumbeat that mirrored the anticipation coursing through him. Alex had spent countless nights rehearsing this in private, each session a careful study of posture, movement, and expression. But tonight, under Mia's watchful gaze, it was different. There was an unspoken challenge here, not just to look the part, but to inhabit it fully. The thrill of control, paired with the terror of exposure, made every inch of his body tingle with anticipation. "Are you sure you can do this?" Mia asked softly, her tone laced with teasing authority. Her eyes held that spark, equal parts encouragement and mischief, and it both comforted and terrified him. Alex swallowed hard. He had always trusted her, but the vulnerability required for this transformation was profound. To truly become her creation meant letting go of the familiar, stepping into a world where he was entirely visible and yet entirely unknown. He set the dress carefully on the bed, noting the way the fabric shimmered under the dim lighting. Each fold and seam seemed to whisper promises of confidence, elegance, and danger. Alex could feel the pulse of excitement rise in his chest, mingling with the anxiety that gripped his stomach. This was more than clothing. It was a key to another version of himself, one he had only ever dared to explore in private. With meticulous care, he began the process. First, the foundation, soft, smooth, applied with deliberate precision. It was a ritual of control, each brushstroke a statement. Alex existed in this world, but so did the persona he was about to become. Next, blush warmed his cheeks, eyeliner framed his eyes, and lipstick colored his lips with a bold, seductive shade that felt both foreign and empowering. Each step was a small victory, a proof that he could navigate this transformation without faltering. High heels waited, their slender elegance both a challenge and a promise. He approached them slowly, feeling the unfamiliar weight and balance beneath his feet. Each step was deliberate, a dance of tension and grace. The click of the heels against the hardwood floor sounded louder than usual, echoing in the apartment as if announcing his entrance into this new identity. Mia's presence was a grounding force, yet it carried an edge. She watched him with an intensity that made his nerves quiver, her fingers brushing lightly against his arm. "You look incredible," she murmured, voice low and filled with satisfaction. The compliment was more than praise. It was recognition, validation of the hours spent in secret rehearsals, the careful study of movements, the painstaking attention to detail. It was a nod to the courage required to exist in both worlds at once. As Alex adjusted the final details of his outfit, the hem of the dress, the wig's curls, the position of his accessories, he felt a flicker of doubt. What if he wasn't convincing? What if someone saw through the careful construction of his persona? The fear was intoxicating, a mix of vulnerability and thrill that made his pulse race. Yet beneath it all, there was a deep, undeniable excitement, a sense of liberation that only came when he fully embraced the transformation. The apartment seemed to fade around him, the walls shrinking, the lights dimming, leaving only the mirror, Mia, and the reflection that demanded his attention. This was a world of tension, anticipation, and possibility. Every glance, every tilt of the head, every sway of the hips was scrutinized, both by himself and by the watchful eyes of Mia. The persona wasn't just an image. It was a challenge, a test of courage, and a proof of resilience. A sudden noise from the street below made him start, a reminder that the world outside the apartment continued, oblivious to the private drama unfolding within. The thrill of secrecy surged through him. Each moment alone, each carefully controlled breath, was a delicate negotiation between exposure and concealment. He was vulnerable, yet empowered, nervous, yet exhilarated. The duality of Alex and the persona created a tension that made every motion, every expression, feel heightened, significant, and alive. Finally, as he took a tentative step forward in his heels, adjusting to the unfamiliar sensation, he realized the transformation was nearly complete. The reflection in the mirror no longer looked like Alex, or at least, not the Alex who lived his daytime life. This was someone else, poised, confident, sensual, and aware of the power that came with inhabiting this persona. Every curve, every line, every carefully applied stroke of makeup told a story of vulnerability and strength intertwined. Mia's hand rested briefly on his shoulder, a grounding yet provocative touch. "Now, we begin the real test," she said softly. Her words sent a shiver down his spine. The real test wasn't about appearance. It was about inhabiting the persona fully, navigating the emotional intensity, and facing the suspense of potential discovery. Alex drew a deep breath, letting the adrenaline mix with anticipation, excitement, and fear. And as he stepped away from the mirror, feeling the full weight of the heels beneath him and the elegance of the dress around him, he understood, this was more than a transformation. It was a journey into self-discovery, trust, and suspense. A delicate balance between pleasure and danger, exposure and empowerment. The night ahead promised challenges, revelations, and moments that would test every part of him. And little did Alex know, the suspense was only beginning. Alex had finally taken his place in front of the apartment window, the city lights spilling across the room and casting a warm, golden glow on the emerald dress that clung to his curves. Each movement was deliberate, measured, a dance of poise and tension. But outside that bubble of controlled elegance, the real challenge began. The world beyond his sanctuary waited, and he was acutely aware that any moment could bring exposure. A soft knock on the door startled him, making his pulse spike. He froze, heels clicking slightly as he adjusted his stance, trying to appear calm, collected, the persona fully in place. Mia leaned against the doorway, smirking. "Relax. It's probably nothing," she whispered, though the mischievous glint in her eyes suggested she enjoyed watching him squirm. Alex's hands trembled slightly as he crossed the room to peek through the peephole. A delivery person stood there, innocuous, holding a small package. Relief washed over him, but it was fleeting. The simple presence of another human being outside his private world reminded him how delicate this balance was. Every secret step, every whispered adjustment of the dress, every tilt of his head in front of the mirror could be scrutinized, discovered, or misjudged. He opened the door carefully, managing to project confidence, letting the heels and sway of the dress convey the persona. "Evening," he said softly, voice tinged with the feminine lilt he had practiced. The delivery person's eyes flicked over him, briefly pausing, a flicker of curiosity crossing their face. Alex felt a surge of fear and excitement, a combination that only heightened the intensity of the night. "Signature, please," the delivery person said, extending a clipboard. Alex signed with a careful hand, deliberately slow, feeling the thrill of being fully exposed yet unnoticed. Each interaction was a test of poise, a chance to inhabit the persona completely, and a reminder that the external world could pierce the safety of his apartment sanctuary at any moment. As the door closed behind the delivery person, Alex exhaled slowly, letting the tension ease just enough for him to notice the subtle changes in his own body and emotions. The persona wasn't just about clothing or makeup, it was about the way he moved, the way he felt, the way he owned the space around him. Every step, every glance, every carefully considered breath added to the authenticity of the transformation. Mia approached, trailing her fingers lightly along his arm. "You're doing so well," she whispered. Her words were both praise and challenge, a reminder that this was a performance, an experiment, and a personal journey all at once. The thrill of her observation made Alex's stomach tighten. To be seen, truly seen, in this vulnerable yet empowered state was intoxicating, frightening, and addictive. The apartment seemed to shrink around them, walls pressing in as if magnifying the suspense. Alex moved toward the small seating area, adjusting the dress and heels with careful precision. Every sound, every shadow, every distant voice from the street below seemed amplified, a reminder that the outside world was unpredictable, uncontrollable, and potentially revealing. The duality of Alex and the persona pressed upon him, a weight that was both exhilarating and terrifying. A sudden ring of the phone made him jump. Mia glanced at it, raising an eyebrow. "Go ahead, it's probably your friend," she said with a teasing smile. Alex's hands trembled slightly as he picked up the receiver. It was indeed a friend, someone who had no idea about this side of his life, calling to discuss mundane matters. The juxtaposition of the normal, everyday world and his secret life created a tension that made his pulse race. He answered carefully, voice steady but tinged with the persona's feminine cadence, navigating the conversation with precision and subtle charm. After hanging up, he sank slightly into the sofa, letting himself breathe. The adrenaline was still there, a lingering hum that made his skin tingle. Mia perched beside him, her gaze assessing, approving, teasing. "Soon, you'll have your first real test," she said. The words were vague, yet charged with implication. Alex shivered at the thought, imagining the scenarios Mia might have in mind. Every possibility carried both risk and excitement. He could be observed, admired, or perhaps discovered. Time seemed to stretch as Alex adjusted to the suspense. Every movement became a conscious exercise in control. The way he crossed his legs, the tilt of his chin, the small gestures of his hands. The persona was more than clothing. It was a state of being, an identity he inhabited fully, yet cautiously. The room felt alive, every object, every shadow, every sound contributing to a heightened sense of awareness. Finally, Mia stood, brushing off her dress with elegant precision. "The night isn't over yet," she said, voice low, filled with promise and danger. "And the real challenge is coming soon." Alex's heart leapt. The anticipation was almost unbearable. He had conquered the private aspects of his transformation, but the external world, the suspense of discovery, and the test of his persona's authenticity awaited. As the night deepened, Alex felt a thrilling mixture of fear and empowerment. Every glance at the mirror, every subtle adjustment of his hair or dress, every step taken in the heels reinforced the duality of his existence. He was vulnerable, exposed, and yet exhilarated. The suspense of what might come next loomed large, promising challenges that would test his courage, poise, and emotional resilience in ways he had never imagined. The evening deepened, and shadows stretched across the apartment, wrapping Alex in a quiet, tense cocoon. Every sound, the distant hum of traffic, the soft rustle of fabric as he shifted in his heels, felt amplified, charged with meaning. The persona he had carefully constructed now pulsed through every movement, every glance, every subtle tilt of his head. But the thrill of transformation was beginning to mix with an edge of dread. Mia had left for a brief errand, leaving Alex alone in the apartment, a situation he had rehearsed countless times but that now felt far more intimidating. Alone, the apartment no longer felt like a sanctuary but like a stage under invisible scrutiny. Every creak of the floorboards, every flutter of the curtains, every distant laugh from the street below seemed a potential threat to the carefully maintained persona. Alex sat on the edge of the sofa, tugging slightly at the hem of his emerald dress, feeling the fabric against his skin in a way that made him hyper-aware of every curve and line. The high heels, once empowering, now made him acutely conscious of his balance, each step a challenge, each sway a reminder of the vulnerability that came with this fully embodied transformation. Then came the unexpected, a knock at the door, sharper, more insistent than the previous visitor. Alex froze, heart hammering in his chest. Who could it be at this hour? He peeked through the peephole and saw a familiar face. His neighbor, someone he occasionally exchanged pleasantries with, standing with a package in hand and a curious expression that immediately raised red flags. Panic surged through him. This was not part of the plan. The persona, the carefully balanced identity, now faced a real test. Would the neighbor see through him? Could he maintain composure while alone and unexpectedly exposed? His palms grew clammy, and the heels seemed heavier, the dress tighter, every motion suddenly magnified. Taking a deep breath, Alex opened the door slowly, voice pitched in careful, practiced femininity. "Hi. I wasn't expecting anyone," he said, forcing casual confidence into each word. The neighbor's eyes flicked up and down, curiosity mixed with surprise, and Alex felt a wave of fear and exhilaration crash over him. Every second was critical. He smiled, a delicate practiced tilt of the lips, hoping to convey ease and poise. "Delivery for you," the neighbor said, holding out a package. Alex reached for it, hands slightly trembling but movements controlled. The neighbor lingered a moment, and Alex's mind raced. Would they see through the persona? Would they guess? Every subtle shift in their gaze seemed a test, a probe into a world Alex had tried so carefully to hide. Finally, the neighbor turned, offering a polite smile, and walked away. Alex exhaled slowly, letting the tension drain from his shoulders. But the adrenaline lingered, a constant reminder that even the most controlled environment could become unpredictable. The persona was strong, but the stakes were real, and the world outside remained a potential threat. Returning to the sofa, Alex ran a hand through his wig, adjusting curls that had shifted during the brief encounter. His reflection in the mirror caught his eye, and he stared at the image, bold, elegant, transformed. Yet beneath the confidence, the fear lingered. This dual existence, Alex and his persona, was fragile. One wrong glance, one slip of tone, one moment of hesitation, could shatter the carefully built illusion. As he settled, Mia returned quietly, her presence immediately grounding yet also intensifying the suspense. "You handled that well," she murmured, a faint smile playing on her lips. But her eyes held a teasing challenge, an unspoken reminder that tonight would test him further. "But that was just the beginning," she added softly. The words sent a thrill of anticipation through Alex, mingling with the lingering fear. She guided him toward the vanity, her hands adjusting the dress, the wig, the subtle makeup that defined the persona. "Look at yourself," she said, voice firm yet encouraging. "This is who you can be. Strong, poised, irresistible. But remember, transformation isn't just skin deep. You have to feel it, own it, even when the world threatens to unravel you." Alex stared at his reflection, the persona staring back. The thrill, the fear, the exhilaration, all fused into a potent mixture that made him dizzy, yet alive. He understood Mia's words. This was more than clothing, more than makeup, more than a role. It was an identity that required courage, discipline, and the willingness to face unexpected challenges. Then, without warning, his phone buzzed. A message from work, urgent, requiring his attention. Panic surged again. Could he respond without revealing his secret? Could he type, speak, or even glance at the screen without the persona cracking? The stakes felt impossibly high. Each heartbeat echoed in his ears, a reminder of vulnerability, exposure, and the thrill of living on the edge. Alex took a deep, steadying breath, summoning the composure Mia had nurtured in him. He responded, carefully crafting words that would satisfy the message without revealing a hint of his secret. The task was mundane yet terrifying, a test of balance, self-control, and the ability to inhabit the persona fully even under unexpected pressure. When the message was sent, he sank back, a mix of relief and exhilaration flooding through him. He realized the night had become far more suspenseful than he could have imagined. The persona was strong, yes, but the external world was unpredictable, full of challenges, tests, and unforeseen moments that threatened exposure. Yet through it all, Alex felt a growing sense of empowerment. A realization that he could face these challenges, that he could navigate the suspense, and that each test only strengthened the bond between him and the persona. The night was far from over, and as Mia watched him with that mixture of approval and challenge, Alex knew the true tests, the suspenseful high-stakes moments, were still to come. The journey into his feminine persona was only deepening, and the thrill, the fear, and the exhilaration were far from finished. The apartment felt smaller somehow, tighter, charged with tension. Each flicker of light, each distant noise, each small shadow seemed magnified, as if the room itself were conspiring to expose Alex. The persona he had so carefully cultivated now demanded full attention, yet the unpredictability of the night threatened to unravel every thread. Mia sat across from him, her eyes sharp, assessing. "You've done well so far," she said softly, a faint smile teasing her lips. "But real confidence isn't just about looking perfect in the mirror. It's about handling the unexpected, surviving it, and still holding your composure." Before Alex could respond, the doorbell rang. Sharp, insistent, cutting through the charged silence like a knife. His heart slammed against his ribcage. Who could it be now? He wasn't expecting anyone. Every instinct screamed caution. His palms were slick with sweat as he shifted in the heels, the emerald dress swaying delicately with each step. Mia leaned close, her breath warm against his ear. "Remember, Alex, this is part of the game. Your challenge. Handle it." Her words sent a shiver down his spine, a mixture of fear, excitement, and anticipation. The persona was no longer just a reflection in the mirror. It was alive, a living test of courage and composure under pressure. He approached the door slowly, each step deliberate. Peeking through the peephole, he saw a friend of Mia's standing there, smiling brightly. "Hey, we thought we'd drop by," the friend called cheerfully. Panic surged. Alex's mind raced. How could he maintain the persona convincingly? Every detail mattered: posture, tone of voice, subtle gestures. One misstep could shatter the illusion he had spent hours perfecting. Taking a deep, controlled breath, Alex opened the door, voice calm yet tinged with feminine elegance. "Hi, welcome," he said, forcing a light, casual smile. The friend's eyes flicked over him, briefly pausing on the heels, the dress, the makeup, but ultimately settling on the composed, confident persona he projected. Relief washed over Alex, quickly replaced by the tension of sustaining the act under scrutiny. They stepped in, chatting casually, unaware of the careful balancing act Alex was performing. Every laugh, every word, every glance was a test. He navigated the conversation with meticulous attention, responding in measured tones, adjusting posture and gestures, maintaining the persona seamlessly. Each moment was a delicate negotiation between authenticity and performance. As the visit progressed, a small mishap occurred. A high heel snagged on the edge of the rug, causing Alex to stumble slightly. Heat rushed to his cheeks, a blend of embarrassment and adrenaline. He regained balance quickly, laughing lightly, hiding the moment of vulnerability. Mia's approving glance from across the room reinforced his determination. Every near miss, every close call, heightened the emotional roller coaster of the night. Once the friends left, Alex exhaled deeply, feeling the intensity of the evening settle into a lingering hum of adrenaline. The persona had survived the scrutiny, but the tension left him drained and exhilarated. He realized the challenges were far from over. Mia's experiments were just beginning. She guided him back toward the mirror, adjusting the dress, the wig, the delicate makeup. "Look at yourself," she said softly. "Every stumble, every fear, every challenge. It's all part of becoming fully this person. Tonight, you're learning to survive, to thrive, to embody confidence even in moments of panic." Alex gazed at his reflection, seeing the persona staring back. The vulnerability, the fear, and the exhilaration were all visible, yet the composed exterior held firm. This duality, the private self and the performed persona, was a fragile, exhilarating balance, and each challenge reinforced its strength. Then, Mia stepped closer, whispering a new instruction. "Tonight, you'll face one more test, one that will push every limit. Are you ready?" The words sent a jolt of excitement and fear through him. He nodded, heart pounding, fully aware that the final challenge was imminent. The anticipation built, every second stretching into an eternity. Alex adjusted his posture, smoothed the hem of his dress, and readied himself mentally and emotionally. The persona was no longer just an experiment. It was a living, breathing identity, capable of navigating suspense, managing fear, and embodying confidence in the face of unexpected trials. And as the night deepened, Alex knew the final test would not only challenge the persona he had built but also reveal something deeper about himself, something beyond the mirror, beyond the dress, and beyond the heels. The stakes were high, the suspense unbearable, and the journey far from over. The room was quiet now, the city lights casting soft reflections across the floor. Alex's heart still raced from the earlier encounters, the delivery mishap, and the unexpected visit from Mia's friend. Every step, every glance, every adjustment of the wig or dress had sharpened his senses to the extreme. The persona was no longer just a costume. It had become a living, breathing identity that demanded attention, precision, and courage. Mia stood nearby, her gaze steady, challenging, almost predatory in its intensity. "Tonight," she said, voice low, "you've handled the unexpected. You've faced scrutiny, navigated mistakes, and maintained control. But there's one last test, something that will truly push you to your limits." Alex swallowed hard, his pulse thrumming in his ears. The anticipation was electric. He adjusted the dress one last time, smoothing its silky folds over his hips, feeling the familiar mix of exhilaration and vulnerability. He straightened in his heels, aware of every inch of his posture, every line his body created in the soft lamplight. The persona demanded perfection, and the night's final challenge would reveal whether he could maintain it under true pressure. A sudden knock at the door shattered the quiet. This one was sharper, insistent, and closer to the edge of intrusion. Alex's stomach flipped. His mind raced through possibilities. Was it a neighbor again? A friend? Someone who could pierce the fragile veneer of his feminine persona? Every instinct screamed caution. Mia's hand brushed his arm, grounding yet provocative. "Remember everything you've learned," she whispered. "Confidence, poise, calm. You're not just dressed, you're transformed. Show it." Taking a deep breath, Alex approached the door, heels clicking softly against the floor. Peering through the peephole, he saw an unfamiliar figure, someone he didn't recognize. The silhouette was shadowed by the hallway light, but the posture suggested authority, or at least someone with purpose. Panic surged through him, but he steadied himself, recalling every lesson, every rehearsal, every subtle adjustment that had brought the persona to life. Opening the door cautiously, Alex's voice flowed with deliberate femininity. "Hello, can I help you?" The stranger's eyes flicked up and down, pausing on the dress, the wig, the posture, the confident tilt of his chin. For a moment, Alex feared they would see through the persona. But then the visitor smiled faintly, offering a friendly greeting that dissolved the tension only slightly. "Just checking in," the stranger said, placing a small envelope in his hands. Alex accepted it with careful elegance, maintaining composure even as his pulse raced. Every detail of this interaction was a test, and every second that passed reinforced the fragility and the power of the persona he inhabited. As the door closed, Alex exhaled slowly, feeling the adrenaline drain just enough to allow awareness to return. Mia's approving gaze met his in the mirror. "You handled that perfectly," she said. Her tone held both pride and challenge, a subtle reminder that the true test was not over. Alex sank onto the sofa, legs crossed delicately, heels perfectly aligned, adjusting the hem of the dress. The mirror reflected a poised, elegant figure, but beneath the surface, his mind swirled with anticipation, fear, and thrill. Every knock, every unexpected visitor, every small obstacle had brought him closer to the edge. The persona was fully alive, but so was the suspense that framed the night. Mia stepped closer, her fingers tracing lightly along his shoulder. "You're ready for what comes next," she murmured. "Soon, you'll face a challenge that will not only test your appearance, but your courage, your composure, and your ability to fully inhabit this persona." Alex nodded, his heartbeat steadying slightly despite the lingering tension. He understood the stakes. This was more than dress and makeup. It was a test of identity, vulnerability, and strength. Every stumble, every moment of fear, every interaction had been a preparation for what was coming. The suspense was reaching its peak, and the night was poised on the edge of revelation. Adjusting his posture, he smoothed the dress one final time, feeling the silky fabric against his skin, the heels grounding him, the wig perfectly framing his face. The persona was complete. Every fear, every excitement, every careful rehearsal had culminated in this moment. He was ready, or as ready as anyone could be, to face the climax, where challenges would escalate beyond rehearsal, where suspense would peak, and where the transformation would confront the ultimate test. The city outside remained unaware, indifferent to the private tension that filled the apartment. But within these walls, Alex and Mia were orchestrating a drama of identity, suspense, and transformation. The final moments of the build-up had passed, and the stage was set for the night's climax, where fear, desire, and empowerment would collide, and where Alex's persona would be tested like never before. The apartment felt smaller than ever, every shadow, every flicker of light, and every distant sound magnified in Alex's heightened awareness. The persona he had so carefully nurtured over the evening was no longer just a costume. It was fully alive, a part of him that demanded authenticity, composure, and courage. But the night was about to escalate in ways he had never anticipated. A sudden ring at the intercom made his heart lurch. Mia's eyes glinted with mischief and anticipation. "That's your next challenge," she whispered. Alex swallowed hard, feeling the tension tighten in his chest. The persona demanded that he answer, project confidence, and handle whatever was coming. Yet fear gripped him like a vice. He pressed the intercom button. "Hello." His voice was soft, lilting, feminine, yet steady, perfectly rehearsed. On the screen, a familiar face appeared, a colleague from work, someone who had no idea about this side of him. Panic surged instantly. How could he maintain composure? One wrong word, one misplaced gesture, and the carefully constructed persona could shatter. "Hey, I'm just in the building," the colleague said cheerfully. "Thought I'd drop by." Alex's stomach twisted. The persona had survived friends, deliveries, and neighbors, but this was work. The stakes had jumped exponentially. Mia's hand brushed his back, grounding him. "Remember everything you've learned," she murmured. "Confidence. Poise. Calm. You've got this." Taking a deep breath, Alex opened the door, heels clicking softly against the floor. Every movement was deliberate, controlled. His dress swayed gently, wig perfectly in place, makeup flawless. The colleague paused, eyes flicking over him, a hint of curiosity in their expression. Alex's pulse raced, but he held the gaze, a confident, poised smile on his lips. "Hi," he said softly, voice perfectly modulated. The colleague smiled politely, chatting casually, oblivious to the tension behind Alex's serene exterior. Each sentence, each gesture, each subtle movement was a tightrope walk. One misstep could reveal everything. As the conversation continued, Alex felt the adrenaline spike. Every laugh, every question, every moment of eye contact was a test of his poise. He adjusted his posture, smoothed the dress, and managed subtle gestures with meticulous care. The persona wasn't just performing, it was living, navigating real-world scrutiny while balancing fear, excitement, and exhilaration. Then came the unexpected. The colleague reached out, gesturing toward the living room. "Mind if I take a quick seat?" Alex froze for a fraction of a second. This wasn't rehearsed. The persona had to respond, to accommodate without revealing vulnerability. A wave of panic threatened to unravel him, but he steadied his breath, masking it with a light laugh. "Of course," he said, guiding the colleague toward the sofa with controlled elegance. Each step, each motion, reinforced the persona, turning fear into performance. Mia's approving glance from across the room reminded him that he could survive this. The conversation continued, mundane yet nerve-wracking, each word a challenge to maintain authenticity. Alex's mind raced, strategizing every response, every smile, every subtle tilt of the head. The suspense wasn't just external, it was internal, a battle between fear and exhilaration, between vulnerability and control. A sudden noise from the kitchen, a plate clattering to the floor, made Alex jump. Heat rushed to his cheeks, adrenaline spiking. He bent slightly, adjusting his dress, pretending to pick up the fallen item with casual grace. The colleague noticed but said nothing, a subtle tension hanging in the air. Alex exhaled silently, heart still racing. Every small incident was a test of composure, a reminder that the persona had to survive unpredictability at all costs. As the visit came to an end, the colleague stood, smiling, oblivious to the internal storm that Alex had navigated flawlessly. "Thanks for the chat," they said, waving goodbye. The door closed, and the room finally seemed to exhale. Alex leaned against the wall, knees slightly trembling, processing the intensity of the moment. Mia stepped closer, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. "You did beautifully," she whispered, her voice warm yet teasing. But this was only the beginning of the climax. The real challenge, the one that will test everything you've built tonight, is about to arrive. Alex's pulse quickened again. The persona had survived scrutiny, panic, and unexpected interactions, but the night wasn't over. The tension, the suspense, and the emotional stakes were still climbing. He adjusted the hem of his dress, smoothed the wig, and squared his shoulders, ready for whatever came next. The city lights outside flickered, indifferent to the drama unfolding within the apartment. But inside, every heartbeat, every step, every breath was charged with suspense. The climax had begun, and Alex knew the night would demand more courage, more composure, and more immersion in the persona than he had ever experienced before. The apartment felt charged, every shadow and reflection magnifying Alex's heightened awareness. He had survived the earlier encounter flawlessly, maintaining the persona through fear, scrutiny, and social tension. But the night was far from over. Mia's eyes glimmered with a mixture of pride and mischief, signaling that the true test, the one designed to push him to the edge, was imminent. A sudden knock echoed through the apartment, louder and more insistent than before. Alex froze, pulse hammering in his chest. Mia's lips curved into a small, knowing smile. "Your next challenge," she whispered, her voice soft yet commanding. "And this one will surprise you." Alex's mind raced. Who could it be now? Another friend? Someone from work? Or perhaps someone entirely unexpected? The suspense was suffocating. Every fiber of his body, the delicate sway of the dress, the subtle curve of his posture, the perfectly placed curls of his wig, was alert, prepared to navigate this new obstacle. He approached the door cautiously, heels clicking softly against the floor. Peering through the peephole, his stomach lurched. Standing there was a figure he had never anticipated. Mia's older brother, a man whose presence alone carried authority and scrutiny. Panic surged instantly. The persona had faced friends, neighbors, and colleagues, but this was a new level. Mia leaned close, whispering, "Remember confidence. Poise. Calm. You've built this persona, now live it." Her fingers brushed his arm briefly, grounding him even as fear and excitement collided in his chest. Taking a deep breath, Alex opened the door. "Hello," he said, voice steady, feminine, perfectly composed. The brother's eyes flicked over him, scanning from head to toe, lingering on the heels, the dress, the makeup, and most of all, the confident posture. A faint smirk appeared on his face. "Interesting," he murmured, the word laced with curiosity and something darker, something challenging. Alex's stomach twisted. He felt both exhilaration and fear as he welcomed him inside. Each step into the apartment was deliberate, each gesture controlled. The persona was fully alive, yet vulnerable under this unexpected scrutiny. Mia's presence behind him was reassuring, but the tension in the room was palpable. The brother began asking casual questions, testing reactions, probing for any crack in the carefully constructed exterior. Every answer, every smile, every subtle tilt of Alex's head was a tightrope act. He could feel his heart racing, adrenaline coursing through his veins, yet he maintained composure, relying on every lesson Mia had instilled in him. Then came the twist. The brother suddenly leaned in, lowering his voice. "I almost didn't recognize you," he said, eyes narrowing slightly, a spark of suspicion flickering in his gaze. Alex's chest tightened. This was it, the moment when the persona could crumble. Every second stretched unbearably. He forced a light laugh, smoothing the wig with a delicate gesture, masking the panic threatening to rise. "You've changed," the brother continued, curiosity mixed with subtle challenge. "Confident. Different. I like it." Relief and exhilaration mingled as Alex realized he had survived yet another test, but the tension remained at a fever pitch. Every interaction now felt like a potential exposure, every glance a threat. Mia's hand brushed his shoulder again, grounding him. "You're doing perfectly," she whispered. "But one final obstacle remains before the night ends." Alex's heart skipped a beat. The suspense was almost unbearable. He straightened in his heels, adjusted the hem of the dress, and readied himself. The persona was complete, but the stakes had never been higher. Suddenly, the lights flickered briefly, casting shifting shadows across the room. Alex's reflection in the mirror caught his eye, a poised, elegant figure staring back, trembling slightly beneath the surface. He realized then that the true climax wasn't just external, it was internal. The fear, excitement, exhilaration, and vulnerability all collided in a singular, electrifying moment. And as Mia's brother finally took his leave, a faint smile still on his face, Alex knew the night was far from over. The ultimate test, the one that would push every boundary, was looming. The persona had survived scrutiny, surprise, and high-stakes encounters. But the real challenge, the one that would define everything, was about to begin. The apartment had transformed in Alex's mind into a stage of ultimate suspense. Every shadow seemed heavier, every reflection in the mirror sharper, every creak of the floorboards a drumbeat counting down the moments to revelation. The persona he had carefully constructed was no longer a shield, it was a test, alive, demanding courage and precision under pressure. Mia's gaze was fixed on him, a mixture of pride, expectation, and mischief. "This is it," she whispered. "Your final challenge. How far will you go to inhabit this persona fully? How strong is your composure under ultimate exposure?" Alex's heart raced, adrenaline mingling with fear and exhilaration. He adjusted the emerald dress, smoothing its silk over his hips, and ran a hand lightly over the curls of his wig. The heels felt both empowering and fragile underfoot, grounding him even as every instinct screamed caution. The persona had survived friends, neighbors, colleagues, and now the imminent, unpredictable climax threatened to break or elevate it entirely. Suddenly, a soft thud echoed from the living room. Alex turned, eyes widening. A single high heel lay on the floor, a symbolic prop that encapsulated the vulnerability and thrill of the night. It had slipped from his foot during an earlier movement, unnoticed until now, but now it demanded attention. Panic surged as he bent to retrieve it, feeling the dress sway precariously and the heels teeter beneath him. Each motion heightened the suspense. Mia's voice was calm yet commanding. "Every prop, every detail. It matters. How you handle it shows your true mastery." Alex exhaled slowly, steadying his pulse, and slipped the heel back onto his foot with deliberate grace. The mirror reflected him fully, poised, elegant, trembling just beneath the surface, the tension almost visible in the way his shoulders shifted and his eyes flicked nervously. Then came the ultimate test. A sudden, unexpected knock, louder, urgent, impossible to ignore. Alex froze, the persona teetering on the edge of perfection and exposure. Mia's fingers brushed his arm, grounding him. "Remember. Composure. You can handle this." He opened the door to reveal a figure holding a package, a stranger's face unfamiliar but insistent. The envelope in their hand became a symbolic prop of suspense, its contents unknown, its arrival threatening to unravel the delicate balance of Alex's transformation. He accepted it with careful elegance, hiding the tremor in his hands, maintaining a calm smile. As he closed the door, Mia stepped closer, voice low, teasing. "Look at yourself," she whispered. "Every detail, every heartbeat, every tremor. This is mastery. But now, the real confrontation awaits. The final reflection." Alex turned toward the mirror, his reflection staring back. A perfected, feminine version of himself, trembling yet resilient, confident yet vulnerable. The persona was fully alive, but the emotional stakes soared. The mirror became a symbolic battlefield, capturing the duality of identity, the thrill of transformation, and the fear of exposure all at once. Then, Mia's hand rested lightly on the back of his shoulder. "Are you ready to own it completely?" Her question reverberated through Alex's mind. The tension, suspense, and exhilaration coalesced into a singular moment of truth. The persona, the fears, the thrill, all demanded acknowledgement and mastery. Every breath he took, every subtle sway of the dress, every carefully placed curl and perfectly applied makeup became a testament to his courage, his control, and the depth of the transformation. The apartment, once ordinary, now felt like a crucible where identity, vulnerability, and empowerment collided. The envelope remained on the table, silent and enigmatic, a promise of potential exposure, yet also a test of resilience. Alex knew the climax wasn't over. The night's ultimate challenge would demand complete immersion, complete control, and complete courage. But for the first time, he realized the persona he had built was not merely a facade. It was a part of him, alive, resilient, and ready to face the unpredictable trials ahead. And as Mia's approving gaze met his reflection in the mirror, Alex understood that the night's climax, the suspense, the challenges, and the transformation, had reached a pinnacle. Every moment of fear, every tremor, every calculated gesture had led to this point, a confrontation not just with others, but with himself. The apartment had grown tense, charged with a silent energy that made Alex acutely aware of every movement, every sound. The persona he had painstakingly built over the evening felt alive, yet fragile. One wrong gesture, one misstep, and the illusion could shatter completely. Mia's eyes, sharp and calculating, watched him with quiet anticipation, waiting to see how far he could push, how fully he could embody this transformation. A sudden buzz from the intercom jolted him. His heart leapt, each beat echoing in his ears. Mia leaned close, whispering, "This is it, Alex. Your final challenge before the night truly ends. Remember, confidence, poise, composure." The tremor in her voice sent a shiver through him, blending fear and exhilaration in an intoxicating mix. He pressed the intercom button, and a voice from outside, the building manager, spoke urgently. "We need to check something in your apartment. Can you open up for a minute?" Alex's stomach twisted. Panic surged, yet he forced his face into calm composure. The persona had survived scrutiny before, but this, someone from outside, someone who didn't know him, was unpredictable. Mia's hand rested on his arm, grounding him. "Show me mastery," she whispered. "You've prepared for this. You can do it." Taking a deep breath, Alex approached the door, heels clicking softly against the floor. He opened it with deliberate elegance, the emerald dress swaying delicately, wig perfectly framing his face, makeup flawless. The building manager's eyes flicked up and down, pausing on him for a long moment. Alex felt his pulse spike, every nerve alight with tension. "Everything okay?" the manager asked, voice professional yet casual. Alex nodded smoothly, careful to maintain the feminine tone of his voice. "Yes, of course," he replied, adjusting his posture with subtle precision. The manager gave a small nod and stepped inside briefly to inspect, oblivious to the inner storm brewing in Alex's mind. Once the manager left, a mixture of relief and exhilaration washed over him. Mia's approving smile was a balm, yet the ultimate revelation, the twist that would redefine the night, was yet to come. She gestured toward the mirror. "Look," she said softly. "Truly look. This is the culmination of everything you've done tonight. But there's one last moment, the one that will test your courage, your control, and your self-awareness completely." Alex approached the mirror, reflection staring back at him with piercing clarity. The persona he had so carefully nurtured, the heels, the dress, the wig, the poise, was fully realized. Yet beneath the surface, he felt vulnerability, excitement, and fear all colliding. Mia's fingers lightly adjusted a stray curl on the wig, her touch intimate yet commanding. Suddenly, a small, unexpected sound, a drawer opening, caused him to flinch. A symbolic prop, a compact mirror he hadn't used yet, lay on the dresser. He picked it up deliberately, turning it in his hands. The reflection caught both himself and Mia in the background, an image of duality and suspense. Every heartbeat, every breath, every subtle adjustment became a test of composure, mastery, and self-possession. "You've done beautifully," Mia whispered. "But now, own it. Fully. The world may not see, but this persona. You must inhabit it completely." Alex exhaled, feeling the weight of the night settle into an intense, electrifying focus. The persona wasn't just external, it was internal, a blend of fear, excitement, control, and revelation. Every challenge, every surprise, every close call had built toward this singular moment of mastery. As he adjusted the dress, smoothing the fabric over his hips and shoulders, he realized something profound. The transformation wasn't just about appearances. It was about embracing duality, confronting vulnerability, and navigating suspense with courage. The final obstacles had been met, the ultimate revelation, the merging of persona and self, was complete. The night's climax had reached its peak. Yet even as exhilaration surged, a quiet tension lingered. The envelope, the symbolic props, the mirror reflection, they all whispered of unresolved suspense. The persona was alive, but the night's story, the drama, was not yet finished. The cliffhanger loomed, promising the next chapter in a story of identity, courage, and transformation. The apartment was silent, save for the soft hum of the city outside. Alex stood in front of the mirror, heels perfectly aligned, dress flowing elegantly over his hips, wig meticulously in place. Every detail of his transformation, from makeup to posture, had been executed flawlessly. Yet beneath the composed exterior, adrenaline still coursed through his veins, a reminder of the suspenseful gauntlet he had just survived. Mia circled him slowly, her eyes sharp, evaluating every gesture, every subtle expression. "Look at yourself," she whispered. "Do you feel it? The persona is more than just clothes. It's a part of you now. Every fear you faced, every tremor, every close call. It led to this moment." Alex's reflection stared back at him, an image of elegance and vulnerability intertwined. The persona had become an extension of himself, yet he was acutely aware of the thin line between performance and self. The envelope from earlier still sat on the table, a silent symbol of the unknown, potential exposure, a future challenge, a lingering suspense. Suddenly, a faint noise from the hallway made him flinch. His heart pounded, heels clicking softly as he adjusted his stance. Every shadow, every flicker of light, became a heightened signal of suspense. Mia's presence was a stabilizing force, yet the tension in the air was undeniable. "You've mastered every test so far," she said softly, "but there's one last choice tonight. Will you remain in this persona, fully embracing it, or retreat back to what you were? The decision defines everything." Alex's mind raced. Every moment of the evening, the unexpected knocks, the surprise visitors, the minor mishaps, the symbolic props, had built toward this singular point. The exhilaration of transformation, the thrill of suspense, and the depth of vulnerability all collided within him. He took a deep breath, smoothing the hem of the dress over his legs, adjusting the wig, and looking directly into the mirror. For the first time, he truly saw himself. Not just the costume, not just the persona, but the blend of courage, vulnerability, and identity that had emerged through the night. The envelope on the table caught his eye again, its presence a reminder that the world outside was still unaware, that exposure was possible at any moment. Yet he felt a surge of empowerment, a realization that the persona he had built was resilient, fully realized, and capable of facing the unknown. Mia stepped closer, her hand brushing his shoulder. "You've done brilliantly," she whispered. "But the story isn't over. The night has tested you, revealed you, and transformed you. What happens next? That suspense, that uncertainty, is yours to navigate." Alex exhaled slowly, allowing the adrenaline to settle into a quiet, potent energy. He understood now that the transformation wasn't just physical, it was emotional, psychological, and deeply personal. The persona, born from fear and excitement, had matured into something enduring, something powerful. And yet, even in this moment of triumph, suspense lingered. The envelope, the possibilities of discovery, the unknown future, all whispered that the story was far from finished. Alex's reflection held a promise of future challenges, future thrill, and future emotional growth. As Mia's approving gaze met his, the apartment seemed to exhale along with him, carrying the tension, the suspense, and the transformation into the night. The climax had reached its peak, the persona fully realized, the emotional stakes at their height, and the suspense unresolved, leaving a tantalizing promise for what would come next. Alex turned slightly, catching the light just right, and allowed himself a small, confident smile. The persona was alive, resilient, and undeniably his own. The story, for now, paused at the edge of revelation, suspended in the thrill of suspense, awaiting the next chapter. The apartment was quiet now, the city lights casting long shadows across the floor. Alex stood in front of the mirror one last time, heels perfectly in place, dress flowing gracefully, wig immaculate. The persona he had nurtured, challenged, and ultimately embraced was alive, vibrant, and undeniably part of him. Yet a tension lingered in the air, a whisper of uncertainty that refused to fade. Mia approached, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. "Tonight, you've proven something," she said softly. "You've survived every challenge, mastered every obstacle, and embraced this persona fully. But there's something you need to understand, the story isn't over. The next twist, it's coming." Alex swallowed hard, a chill running down his spine. The persona felt strong, resilient, yet the unknown loomed larger than ever. Every unexpected knock, every glance, every symbolic prop from earlier now felt like a prelude to something even more unpredictable. The suspense wasn't just external, it was internal, pulsing within him, intertwining fear, excitement, and anticipation. From the corner of the room, the envelope he had received earlier caught his eye once more. Its presence was both comforting and menacing, a silent reminder that the world outside was unaware, and that exposure, or discovery, was always possible. He approached it slowly, heart pounding, and hesitated before picking it up. Every fiber of his being screamed caution, yet curiosity won. The envelope was heavy, sealed tightly, and unmarked. He ran his fingers over the paper, feeling the weight of unknown possibilities. Mia's eyes gleamed with a mixture of encouragement and mischief. "Open it," she whispered. "But be ready. What's inside could change everything." Alex's hands trembled slightly as he carefully slit the envelope open. Inside was a single card, its message simple but chilling. Are you ready to truly become her? Permanently? The words hit him like a shockwave. His pulse spiked, and for the first time, the persona wavered, not in skill or poise, but in emotional certainty. The knight's transformation, the mastery of persona, the thrill of suspense, all collided in a moment of profound fear and exhilaration. He realized that what he had achieved so far was only the beginning, and that the future held choices and consequences far beyond anything he had imagined. Mia stepped closer, her presence warm yet commanding. "This is your next step," she said softly. "The question isn't whether you can handle it, it's whether you want to. And once you decide, there's no turning back." Alex's reflection in the mirror seemed to shift, almost as if it held its own awareness, its own anticipation. The persona stared back at him, elegant and poised, yet tinged with vulnerability. He realized that he was standing on the edge of a decision that would define not just this night, but his identity, his life, and the thrilling secret he had cultivated. A sudden knock at the door jolted him. Not the routine visitor, not the colleague, not Mia's brother. This was someone new, someone unknown. Panic surged immediately, every instinct screaming danger. He glanced at Mia, who only smiled knowingly, her eyes reflecting the same thrill and anticipation that coursed through him. Alex's heart pounded as he hesitated at the door. The suspense had reached its peak, the persona fully alive, yet the unknown had arrived. Every step, every breath, every movement was a delicate balance between exposure and control. The knight's transformation had brought mastery, but now, the stakes were higher than ever. He took a deep breath, fingers trembling as they reached for the doorknob. The city outside was indifferent, the world unaware, yet within these walls, everything had changed. The knock came again, more insistent, demanding attention. Alex's reflection met his gaze in the mirror, a silent challenge. The persona, the transformation, and the suspense were all on trial. And then, the scene froze, the story paused at the edge of revelation, leaving every question unanswered. Who was at the door? Would Alex embrace the next stage of transformation, or retreat to safety? Would Mia's challenge push him beyond his limits, or had he already crossed the threshold of no return? The apartment fell silent again, the tension lingering like a held breath. The heels clicked softly against the floor as Alex took a tentative step forward, toward the unknown, toward the decision that would define everything. The screen fades to black.